Hello everyone, this is Alireza. In this episode, we will finalize our graph for first iteration. I recorded it, but in the middle of recording, I had a power gone, power lockout, whatever you call it, and I saved it, but I didn't have the video, so I had to roll back, and I think I covered everything, but we will look, and if the code is different on your side, that's the reason. I will drag down this scripts slowly in each class at the end of the episode, so that if there is any change that I forgot, we can take a look at them. Okay, and as you notice, I marked my scripts with to-do lists. So tasks lists, yeah, there are tons of tasks now. So let's get busy. Well, right now, if I load the graph, I have an editor error. Oh yeah, because I removed some stuff inside my node graph. Yeah, here. Okay, I comment them and talk about what is going on later. Okay, we will come back to this guy later. So to do finish when deleting nodes. I forgot that one. Okay, so the very first thing, add a node boundary and use it later on mouse position checks. If you recall, when I was doing this guy for event processing and checking the connections, I had a test rect here. I removed that test rect in the video, and I didn't add it now because it's fairly simple to add. And for that, we want a node boundary. So let's get that one done. And we say public rect node boundary. And in my update, GUI update, first thing I do is assigning that node boundary. So node boundary equals to node rect. Okay. Then we say if outputs.any. Should I start with outputs? Yeah, any. Then we say node boundary dot y plus equals to 18. And then we say if inputs dot any. Then we want to say first node boundary dot y minus equals to 18, so we move it above, and then we say node boundaries dot height plus equals to 18, so we move it down again, and this is the height, not 1. Okay, so just to make it obvious for debugging, I will say GUI.box node boundary, so that you can see what is going on here. Okay, now if I come back to Unity, I should see a boundary drawn here. Okay, so you see that this is the node boundary now, and this is the node boundary now for each node. Okay, and we are still getting this argument exception. I will come back to that in this episode and tell you what was the problem with this guy. Now, if I select any node, yeah, we broke that connection again. I double check that I'm serializing everything and okay, what? Oh, heck. Come on, connect. Okay, I will debug everything, and at the end, this should work. I'm fairly sure between that episode and this episode, I missed some stuff. Okay, so back to code. So that's our boundary, okay? That's one to do. Next to do in this class, It's when I'm doing the right click for the context. And I don't get my context menu anymore. Interesting. Did I break that one too? Maybe. But, you know, we can move all this guy to the top. So we don't need any of this part. All we are carrying here is moving our mouse like before, and we don't need this part. Also, because I will add a context menu to work view, I want my middle mouse button to drag the nodes around. So now for getting this process context, and if you look, we are not using the event anymore here. So to get the context, when we are drawing our buttons for input and output, okay, we have this code. If we are hitting a button, then here we check if e.button equals to 0. So we are left mouse clicking, then do this guy. Else, if e.button equals to 1, then we want that context menu, and we name it process context menu, process events, process context menu. Okay. There. So even though that I broke it before, now if I click on any output, I get my break connection, and it will break the connections. Okay. Although my code, this is an old graph. Now I know what's going on. Okay, delete. Test. The reason it was all broken was the rolling back. So create a float node, another float node, and an add node. Middle mouse, okay. Break connection, okay. I think I have some bugs inside the code. We will see that this will work when I finish everything now. So same for output. So that we say if e.button equals to 0, not 3, okay, equals to 0, then do the connection stuff. Else, if e.button equals to 1, process the context menu for us. So now I should be able to not only what happened, okay, break the connection here, I should be able to break the connection here. So I didn't need any of that mumbo jumbo in process event. I could just simply check the button inside the creation of the button itself. Okay, that's that. Now, context callback. When we are breaking the connection, I want to, as you saw in node graph, when I'm deleting these guys, these nodes, I want to be able to call that break connections from here too. Because when you're deleting a node, you want to break the output connections and break the input connections. So what I will do, I will remove all this code. Bam. And I will add my own methods here. So public void break output connection node output and public void break input connection node input. Just by adding these, this error here should gone. Okay. Now for the code, it's a bit different from the previous episode, but let's first call them. So break, this one is out, this one is input, so break input connection input, and break output connection output. So in breaking the output connection, we say if output dot child node does not equal to null, do stuff. After that we say output that is occupied equals to false, and we say output dot connected input ID equals to -1, and then we say output dot child node equals to null. And now I know why the Unity stuff was not working, because we had error in node graph. Now it should work. It's still not working. Okay. We'll come to that later. So we say if the child node is not null, then we say output the child node dot inputs of index output dot connected input dot parent node equals to null, and we want this part dot connected input connected output equals to null, and then that is occupied equals to false. We had this part of the code, but I'm not sure if I was checking for the child node being null or not. So breaking the input, we say input that is occupied equals to false, input dot connected output dot child node equals to null, then input dot connected output dot connected input ID equals to -1, then input dot connected output that is occupied equals to false, and finally input dot parent node equals to null. Okay, that's that part. Do we have any more to-dos? Yeah. Okay, you see this? If event current button equals 1, return handle connection. That is why we didn't connect. We moved the mouse event for the breaking the connection context menu outside into the button, so we don't need that. Okay, let's try it. Because if I right click now, I get that break, left click, I get that connection, but something's happening here. My connection should work. Do I have anything here to do? Yes, one more thing. Okay, now that we have the boundary for checking the left click, mouse down, and this is where we are selecting the nodes, I think, yeah. And here we say node boundary instead of node itself. So coming back, and now we are connected. So that was the part, because we were using that node itself. Node itself isn't having this test rect, and this was why we didn't have that connection going on. Okay, cool. Now we have connection. Now if I break the connection here, it's not working. Break connection. Okay, what have I done now? Well, this part is related to this video now. Oh, I know what's going on. I forgot this part. If we have only one, That was why. So the inputs are obviously this part. Well, let me double check. We had that. We have this here. We don't have it here. Okay, so we say if e.buttons equals to 0, do this. I forgot two of those cases. So else if e.button equals to 1, process context menu. That was for when our output count is greater than 1. Here we fixed that. For inputs greater than 1, we fixed it. But for inputs that is only 1, we need to do it if e.button equals to 0. Do these. Else if e.button equals to 1, process context menu. And let's see if it fixed everything now. And yeah, I broke that lining connections, but let me double check. Now if I break connection, it's not working. Break connection, break connection, break connection, break connection. Okay. Event dot current dot use yeah, no reference. 288, and I think that's event. Yeah, we don't have any event here. Context callback, it accepts an object if obj is node input. Oh, connection button. Oh, well, of course, connection button is null. And here, from the start, I need to say connection button equals to outputs of I, Control C, connection outputs of 0, that was Y. So process connection equals inputs I, inputs of 0. So the reason it was not working was that in process context menu, I'm sending in the connection button, but I didn't set it. So it was actually null. So no, I don't need safe casting. So let's see if it works now. And that was the null reference reason, okay? So break connection, and now it's working. Break connection, and it's working. But here I forgot to do something when I'm clicking on the input. So in the input, Input that is occupied false, connected output is occupied false. This should work. Seriously, this should work. Save, come back to Unity, clear the graph, yes, create a float node, create an add node, connect, break, and now it's working. Okay, I think I just had serializing problems. Break. Yeah, it's working. Okay. So one thing I want to make sure is that, well, let's first do the other to-do lists. So finished when deleting. Well, this is what we want. When we are deleting a node, we check if the outputs are not null and we have something there. Then we loop through them and we call the break output connections. And we do the same for the input connections, okay? So effectively, if I delete this guy, this connection should become unoccupied. That was all to it, okay? And if I break this guy, these two will be unoccupied. Okay, so that's that. Now the finished code, okay, I will come to this later. In Node help view, well, we don't have anything to show yet, so save that. In Node the status, we don't have anything to show yet, so we delete that. And we don't need these commented lines. In Tools view, no toolbar. Right now, if I move my mouse on any of these buttons, no one will know anything about it unless they go and visit our documentation to see what will these guys do, because we are not showing any text on them. Now, guess what? We can say new, come on, new GUI content. The GUI content can accept a text. Okay. The next is image, so null. And the last one is tooltip, so it's null for the separators. Okay. Control C. And now, oh, I didn't remove this one. For example, you see I have the new graph. Okay, this one will be a load graph. And I forgot some of them, so better unload graph. Less typing. And clear current graph. The delete current graph. Not there. And create float node. And create add node. Okay. So now if I go into Unity, let it compile, move my mouse, you get the tooltip. There we go. Okay. So new graph, load graph, and I unload graph. Well, why are they not showing properly sometimes? Yeah, I think it needs retiming. Okay, so we get these, but you notice that the new graph shows a bit offset to the left, and actually you see that Unity itself is not adding tooltip to its buttons. But if I move my mouse here, I move my window here, actually, you see that part of that goes out of the window. And I'm not sure if I can figure something for this guy. If I can, then I will come back to this guy later. Okay. So right now we have these guys, and these two are not showing properly sometimes. Is that because of that separator there? Separator. Where are you? Okay, the very first separator. Let's add this. The second separator has nothing. Or maybe it's because it has nothing. So Control C, Control V, S, and coming back to Unity, let it compile. Ah, come on. You see, it's not updating every time. Let me see. There we go. It's not updating. Ah, maybe it's because of our argument exception. We will come to that later and see if it's working at the end of the episode or not, because there is nothing to do, nothing that I can do actually. So that's that part. Now, this one. For if you well, let's add the context menu first, because without a context menu then it means nothing. But let me get rid of that argument exception first. The reason for that argument exception is that, first of all, I'm just checking the null for work view. So remove that to do. And you need to check other things. So if tool view, equals to null, or properties view equals to null, or what do we have? Help view equals to null, or status view equals to null. Then create the views. Now, the second part of it is inside create view. We check if the instance is not null, we add the views. If the instance was null, we were creating the instance, and at the same time, we were assigning these guys. This is wrong, because Unity iterates through each editor window 2 times per frame. The first time it iterates for figuring the layout. The second time it iterates through and draw the layouts. By doing this, the very first iteration, we have problem because nothing's there to draw. So we have to remove it. Now if I come back, I will never get that argument exception anymore. Okay? And no, it's not related to that guy. Interesting. Unless I'm moving somewhere. On the second button, then it shows meh. I don't know. So let's see. I'm not happy with this. So let's make some GUI contents before this. Okay? In update view, before processing the events, we say GUI content, and we call it what? New graph content, and we assign it to here. So new graph content, control no, from here to here, control X, new graph content, and it's equals to this. And I don't want actually to do that here, because that would be ugly. I will move it on top. there, and we cut that. We make it inside the initializer. So when we are making that toolbar for the first time, we have that, so we don't constantly making it time and time again. So this is load graph, this is unload graph, this is delete graph content, then this is float node content, and this is add node content. Add node content. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I forgot something. Clear graph. Okay. So, and this is clear graph. Okay. So new graph, then load graph is equals to load graph, unload graph equals to unload graph, then clear graph equals to clear graph, delete graph equals to delete current graph, clear current graph, unload current graph, then the add node and float node. So float node equals to create float node, and add node equals to create add node. Okay, then we come down. Instead of this, we use the load graph content. The separator has no GUI content. It would be a serious memory leak actually. So because each time we are creating a new and not removing it. So unload graph content. Clear graph content. Delete graph content. Float node content. And add node content. So now, to make it work, I need to close and reopen a new editor so that it instantiated, but it's not showing up first time again. Huh. Is it the proper behavior? I'm not sure. I have nothing more in mind to do that. Okay, so that's that. I can't do anything more than that. Now,